Good afternoon, all. We'll get started in just a moment. For those of you who are here attending the webinar, we do ask that you click on the globe on the bottom of your screen. We do have interpretation with multiple languages in Spanish, Korean, and Armenian. So all attendees should click the globe on the bottom of their screen and select the language that you will be listening to. The options here are English, Spanish, Korean, and Armenian. So to please begin with the language that you would like to be listening to, so that to ensure that you could be in the webinar in the language that you need. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming to our 2023 Heat Relief for LA launch. Before we begin, we'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. The City of LA acknowledges the original indigenous residents of this land. LA was founded on unceded land of the Tongva, Chumash, and Tataviam nations. By drawing on indigenous knowledge and the wisdom of LA, diverse cultures and experiences, we seek to create an equitable decision-making approach to achieving climate solutions for present and future residents of Los Angeles, while paying proper respect to the history of this land and its original stewards. The city will seek to build reciprocity with local indigenous communities while addressing local climate change impacts, building frontline community resilience, and inspiring Angelenos today and tomorrow to respect the land, the water, nature, and air that we share in order to live, play, pray, and work in Los Angeles. So again, good afternoon, everyone, and we thank you for being with us here today. We now have the pleasure of presenting you to the Honorable Mayor Karen Bass, who has a message for us. That will be next.
Hi, I'm Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Climate change is among the greatest challenges facing our city, and no one has felt the impact of this crisis more than our communities here in LA. For most of us, extreme weather is becoming the new normal, from wildfires that jeopardize homes to perennial drought that threatens to upend businesses and communities. And now we've had a tremendous amount of rain this year. These impacts are only worsened by longer and hotter heat waves. Extreme heat is the single largest cause of climate-related deaths and hospital visits in Los Angeles, with low-income communities and our unhoused population disproportionately impacted. That's why I'm proud to be here for the launch of the Heat Relief for LA campaign, just 2 days ahead of National Heat Awareness Day. This campaign will ensure that Angelenos understand the dangers of extreme heat and provide critical resources to help people stay safe from dangerous heat waves in the coming summer months. From cooling centers to community pools and splash pads to hydration stations, we are preparing for another hot summer. But this work is ongoing. Our city departments are installing cool pavement and cool roofs and planting trees to combat the urban heat island effect. And we are prioritizing our often overlooked communities, many of which suffer from the most severe impacts of rising temperatures. I want to thank Marta Segura, our city's Chief Heat Officer and Director of the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office, for hosting this event today and for her work to launch this campaign, and all of the cities and community leaders here today. Together we can and we will build a more resilient and healthy Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor Karen Bass. We really are inspired by your leadership, and your remarks just now have clarified for us why we must take urgent and bold action. As the City of LA's Chief Heat Officer, I'm thrilled to launch the Heat Relief for LA Preparedness Campaign on behalf of the city and the Board of Public Works. I also want to thank the Board of Public Works, our many city leaders, and our communities for their steadfast commitment to the creation of equitable climate solutions. Community voices have guided our office's climate policy since day one, well, even before day one, if you consider that they advocated for the creation of the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office itself. Thanks as well to the LA Regional Climate Collaborative and our over 70 partners who will spread the materials via social media across the city and across the county. I also want to thank the iconic cartoon artist, Lalo Alcaraz, for the amazing artwork he provided for our campaign and our heat relief poster. Art is a universal language, especially popular art, which is a catalyst for movement building. Lalo's art is known for lifting key social and political messages nationwide. Gracias, Lalo. Also, special thanks to Yumi Serra from the Governor's Office of Planning and Research and their statewide Extreme Heat Communications and Partnerships Program for their collaboration with the City of LA. Extreme heat is LA's #1 climate hazard, and this year we're likely to reach higher levels of extreme heat, surpassing the dreaded 1.5 degrees Celsius. We also know that the chronically ill in historically disinvested areas of Los Angeles and the unhoused suffer excess hospitalizations and deaths from extreme heat, as Mayor Bass pointed out. High temperatures have also been linked to increased mortality, labor costs, injuries, decreased cognitive performance, impaired learning, and adverse pregnancy outcomes. And over 50% of those who perish in heat nationwide are from our homeless population. Mayor Bass's Inside Safe initiative, combined with cooling centers and pop-up cooling stations, hydration stations, and other strategic communication campaigns, will all provide more access to avoid this harm from the unhoused and our most vulnerable neighborhoods. Before I introduce our honorable and distinguished first panel, I want to provide you with a brief summary of what our city is doing to prevent harm from heat in coordination with multiple city departments. Our city will be investing in 3 types of infrastructure and actually has been investing in this infrastructure. First, our shared public infrastructure, such as improved roads, tree canopy, open permeable surfaces, recycled water, electrified fleets and trucks, and creating multimodal electrified mobility networks and more shade for the first and last mile. Number 2, our built environment, which can improve with building and home electrification. With our new building decarb policy, we will install cool roofs, heat pumps, passive cooling, nature-based solutions, green energy, and well-designed shade structures and bus shelters. And also number 3, by building our social infrastructure and our social cohesion through mobilizing our heat risk prevention information, improving the deployment of targeted, equitable disaster response resources, and the expansion of our cooling and resilience centers. Our most successful cooling and resilience centers have strong civic communications, activities, resources, programs for the community, and they are there year-round. The examples of these are our libraries, our family resource centers, peace and healing centers, senior centers. These are all good examples of this great and vast network that we want to improve upon. We plan to expand these resilience centers and that network in the city of LA for everyone. And we want everyone to have access to this extensive social cohesion and wraparound services all year round. So what is our call to action? This is where you can help. We invite you to join us and sign up to be part of our network and our social media campaign on our website, climateforla.org, and look under heat and heat communications. We encourage businesses, churches, nonprofits, everyday people who want to spread the word, stores, cafes, malls, clinics, hospitals. You can all take an active role. Through CBO's growing network of partnerships and our alliance with LEAP LA and the LA Regional Climate Collaborative, the NCSA, and so many others, there are now more than 70 nonprofits and agencies who will help disseminate our heat resource information and our heat relief poster. We are partnering with various city departments like ITA and their 311, the Emergency Management Department, Public Works, Civil Human Rights and Equity, the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, our district offices, our mayor's offices, President Krikorian's office, community organizations, and frontline leaders to educate and engage these communities on the risks of extreme heat and how to stay safe during these very deadly heat waves. Through deep stakeholder engagement, we share our heat relief resource poster and run our social media campaign for 20 weeks. So now I have the pleasure of introducing you to our distinguished panel of city leaders who are here to ensure that we have region-wide communications with nonprofits. We also have the governor's office here with us today, and we'll drive home the importance of working together across agencies, mobilizing and aligning ourselves to achieve our collective goals for a healthier and climate resilient Los Angeles. Thank you so much, everyone. And now I want to introduce first online, Deputy Mayor Randall Winston. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Winston.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that introduction, Marta. As you mentioned, I'm the Deputy Mayor of Infrastructure here in Los Angeles. We're about 3.5 months in, and we, of course, hit the ground running. Look, I'll just reiterate the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office is really pioneering, I think, work not just here in LA but nationally to build really an apparatus for addressing what we know are the most dire impacts of climate change and impacting folks who are most in need of our assistance. Here in the city, we've done a few things in this past budget and in the year ahead to ensure that we're able to respond to our increase in heat waves and other climate impacts. We have underway this year completion of our urban forestry management plan. That's going to help us target, we'll build out our tree canopy, our urban tree canopy first of all, but really target those parts of the city that are most impacted by extreme heat and ensuring that those areas can be cooled and made more livable when we do see, and we are seeing an increase in our hot days. Second, resiliency centers and helping to build out places, not just cooling center, but places where individuals can go during those extreme heat events and other times where I know we are experiencing those impacts. We're taking a look right now throughout the year and where those locations will be, and certainly looking at other sources of funding to be able to build upon that effort in the years ahead. Beyond that, we are excited to partner with and continue to partner with all of you, with residents, with organizations, with our state and other partners to expand the work of CMO and ensure that our office has the resources to grow and be more impactful in the months and the years ahead. So I want to thank you again for all being a part of this campaign. Marta, thank you again for the introduction, and excited about all the work we have to do moving forward.
Thank you so much for those wise words, Deputy Mayor Winston. We really appreciate your support and participation. Now, without further ado, I also want to present you to Council President Paul Krikorian, the founder of the Chief Heat Officer position.
Well, thank you, Marta, for that, and very proudly so. And I'm so appreciative of all the work and the leadership that you have embarked upon since you were named our first Chief Heat Officer. I want to recognize first the many years of work of my former colleague, Paul Koretz, whose leadership and persistence led to the creation of the Climate Emergency Management Office. And if ever there was an example, I think, of the need to think globally and act locally, this would certainly be it. And once CMO was launched and And we had the strong leadership in place under Marta Segura. It became clear to me that we needed to take the next step as well, and not just think about climate change as something that has global consequences, which it certainly is. And we've certainly stepped up to try to play our role as a city in contributing to appropriate responses to that emergency. But we're also focusing on the very local impacts that come from climate change, including extreme heat, which is the deadliest manifestation of climate change here in Los Angeles and elsewhere. And so it was a very proud moment when we were able to lead the council to the creation of the chief heat officer. And I'm very pleased that Marta Segura has taken on that role as I believe the nation's first big city chief heat officer, if not first, one of the first. And Marta, you've really set the standard for what we can do and must do when it comes to addressing heat. And I just want to speak briefly about why this matters so much, because we've talked about the public health impacts when we have an increase in mortality of between 10 and 30% on extreme heat days. It's clear that there is a public health imperative, particularly among our most vulnerable residents, those who are unhoused, our seniors, those who are already frail are disproportionately impacted by extreme heat and unfortunately suffer the greatest degree of increase in mortality. And that's maybe the most obvious emergency aspect of this, but there are other aspects as well. With extreme heat comes increased risk of wildfire, for example, and especially in a place like Southern California, where we always have a challenge of dealing with wildfire. Extreme heat only makes that risk that much worse. We have a power grid that is already struggling to keep up with demand. We have aspects of our grid that are aging, that need upgrades and investments. And as you have increased heat and extreme heat days, that puts such a strain on the power grid that it risks breaking parts of it, which then increases in turn the unavailability of air conditioning and other things that people depend upon. And even when it comes to things like our public transit, people don't think about this very often, but I serve on the board of Metro and Metrolink, and both agencies have had delays and cancellation of service on extreme heat days because of the need to inspect sagging power lines, buckling rails, and so forth, just to make sure that the transit system is safe to use. We also have, of course, a need to increase ridership in these systems, and we need much more in the way of bus shelter, particularly on these extreme heat days, in order to allow people who are dependent upon transit to be able to safely use it. So we're making progress in a lot of areas, and some have been mentioned. And Marta, I want to congratulate you on Cool Spots LA, which was a big step forward in stitching together the availability of information for the public about cooling resources that are available, not just cooling centers, but all the other places that you mentioned that people can go to find relief, our libraries and our parks and other informal cooling centers as well. Bringing those together into a single source of information is really going to be valuable for people. We're increasingly investing in new cool pavement systems to help bring down the heat island impact, particularly in places like the San Fernando Valley, where the heat is significantly higher. We mentioned the urban forestry management plan and the need to increase the tree canopy, and that's certainly true. We also need to hire more people to do that work. Planning is part of it. We need to continue to push forward with our efforts to ensure that we have a robust urban forestry division that's able to keep up with the work. And we need to do more to make sure that air conditioning is available to all. Right now, 30% of Los Angeles apartments have no air conditioning at all. 30%. And we need to do much more to ensure that we have a robust rebate system in place, even mandates on rental housing to ensure that we keep people safe in their homes on these extreme heat days. So there's a lot of work ahead of us. I'm pleased that we're making the progress that we have. And I'm especially pleased, Marta, that we have your leadership and the leadership of CMO and the Chief Heat Office in ensuring that these changes continue to move forward.
Thank you, President Krikorian. The feeling is definitely mutual, and I'm really honored to be in this role, and I love my job every single day. Now I have the pleasure of presenting General Manager Carol Parks from the Emergency Management Department. She has been a mentor, a collaborator. She's embraced the work of CMO from day one, and I really can literally say that I wouldn't be making the progress that I'm making without General Manager Parks' support. So General Manager Parks, all yours.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Marta, and to the other panelists, and to all of the Angelenos who have joined us this afternoon for this most important topic about heat relief for LA. You know, when we think about our current weather condition, it's a nice 66 degrees outside, mostly cloudy, but that's comfortable. But when we are dealing with our extreme heat emergencies, things are very, very different. Those of you who were in the LA area late August and September experienced firsthand what extreme heat looks like here in the city of LA. There were days when most of the city were experiencing weather temperatures in the triple digits, which is very unusual for LA, but it's a reality that we all have to prepare for. So as the general manager of the city's emergency management department, I have tasked my teams to begin working more closely with the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office to better understand the extreme heat impacts to our residents here in the LA area. We not only work with Marta's office, but we're also hand in hand with the National Weather Service and other climate researchers to better identify any various resources and tools that we can use to integrate in the planning that we do. It's very important that we better understand the impact so that we can provide those important tips to our residents and our business owners, those who are unhoused, those who may work in an outdoor area during extreme heat. So we are doing a lot to ensure that we are ramping up all of our initiatives to help our general public, because it's very important. Because of the impacts of extreme heat, we do not want to lose any lives, but we realize that unless we get the messaging out and unless we teach Angelenos how to best prepare, especially our most vulnerable communities, that if we don't get this messaging out, that we will see fatalities related to heat as we have in the past. So I encourage everyone to please be a part of this campaign, to visit the websites and use the resources. A thing that we really do amplify in emergency management is that we have that one specific message that we want to get out to everyone. So as you hear the information today and see all of the resources available, as we do in our work, we do reach out to other non-government organizations, other businesses and community groups to ask them to help spread the word about how to best be prepared for extreme heat. This is a very important campaign that will save lives if we share the information. So while we are developing new programs and putting all of these resources out, unless the message gets out, it will be imperative that those who don't get the message truly understand of how they can best prepare themselves. So we look forward to our continued partnership with all of our city agencies. We have updated our plans and we will continue to update them to identify additional resources for Angelenos to get when heat arrives this summer, whether it's expanding the hours of the cooling centers or finding new places where people can go to remain safe. We will work together with our partners to get that message out so that everyone can remain safe. Marta, I applaud you and your team for the work that you are continuing to do. Our work has really only begun because it's so much to do, but we will continue to be a huge supporter. We will amplify messaging so that we collectively, as a city, can be best prepared for our next heat event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General Manager Parks. I look forward to working with you this heat season and every other one. Thank you so much. Next, we have for you Commissioner Susana Reyes from the Board of Public Works, another wonderful mentor of mine who has been in the environmental, climate, and environmental justice arena for many years. But I'm really proud to have her here today. Commissioner Susana Reyes, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Marta, and thank you to all the previous presenters for really echoing the urgency of extreme heat and its impact. We are already adversely harming our city in many ways with extreme heat, and we need to deal with it with urgency because it's impacting Angelenos. It will impact us more as temperatures rise. And aside from intensifying in more frequent heat waves and potentially more frequent public safety, public power outages, the elderly residents, the marginalized communities are going to be suffering the brunt of that. And that is something that marginalized and historically redlined communities are generally hotter than other affluent and historically privileged communities when that extreme heat comes before us. As a commissioner in the Board of Public Works, we would like to, on behalf of my colleagues, really express our support for CMO, for Marta's leadership, for her staff, and the work that they are doing. We recognize and anticipate that there will be a lot of demands on CMO's mission through the work that it's doing here in our city and in its partnerships, really not only with the city, but regionally, because heat affects more regions. As we deal with them, we need to leverage our resources, and by working together in addressing climate change, LA will be able to more effectively target and address these issues. So I'm excited to be part of this campaign, to really communicate the message out there, because it is difficult. Communication throughout the city with hundreds of languages, hundreds of communities, our local communities. We need to ensure that that message is communicated effectively, and that we have enough bandwidth really to make sure that there is an understanding of what resources are there and how they need to act, the toolkits that are available. In addition, on the Board of Public Works, we do have a sense, and we monitor the different projects that we invest in that impact the urban heat island effect, that mitigates that. We have looked at our programs for cool pavement as well. As was mentioned earlier, we also have our bus shelters that we will be expanding to at least 3,000 more, and provide shelters for 75% of transit boardings in each of the council district, with priority given to locations with the highest ridership, a high exposure to heat, and transit-dependent residents. We need to improve also that transit information that's being communicated, and working with our allies and partners, with Metro, with LADOT, and make sure that there is sort of like there's a flexibility in the contracts that we approve that pertain to like development issues or projects, infrastructure projects that have something to do with mitigating the urban heat island impact. We are also looking at, of course, partnerships with our LADWP with the utility, because there are projects that are connected to our public works infrastructure. And I'd like folks to know that there are a lot of resources that LADWP offers, whether it's on the weatherization side or the LIHEAP, the low income home energy assistance program that they have for low income customers, for renters, and that they are able to get those resources. For cool pavements, proud to say that we have completed about 5.6 million total square feet that we have deployed there. Our investment is working. We are cooling the health, the urban heat impact on areas that are very vulnerable, so to speak, if you look at it that way. We also have some of the total trees that are planted by our urban forestry division, really looking at where they're planted, where they're most needed, because we need that shade, that canopy for our folks. The Board of Public Works also is engaged in the urban greening programs that not just only increases the tree coverings, but also expand where those shade coverings are, the landscaping, the medians that need some improvements, availability probably of the water features that offer immediate hydration and cooling benefits and provides the long-term value and resilience for our communities. So we're looking also at hydration stations, especially because we have our unhoused population and areas where there's not enough resource for the walking public as they go for their transportation, where they can have a resource to hydrate themselves as they walk to their jobs or walk to the bus stops or the bus shelters for their transportation. We also have some partnership outreach grants that our office is working with other organizations so that we can help customers, not customers, the public, our customers really, look through what types of resources there are out there to mitigate the heat island effect. So our Board of Public Works, I just want to repeat, is committed to be a partner in this effort. Thank you, Marta, for your leadership. Thank you to all our partners and allies. This is something that really needs that urgency. And we will be helping also with the communication part of it. And thank you. This is such an exciting program. We just need to really deploy it effectively to all of our public. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Susana Reyes. And that's a great segue for our next speaker, Executive Director Yumi Sera, who is a Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Community and Strategic Partnerships for Extreme Heat Communications. Without further delay, I want to give her the floor because we're so excited to be partnering with your office, Yumi.
Thank you, Marta. And thank you very much for this opportunity to join you in this important campaign to get the message out on staying safe during extreme heat. So I'm the inaugural Executive Director of a new office in state government dedicated to managing the state's priority campaigns, the Office of Community Partnerships and Strategic Communications. We were born out of the Census 2020 and COVID-19 outreach and education campaigns. And since the early days of the Newsom administration, we've been focused on building campaigns that are community-rooted, data-informed, and equity-centered. Our newest campaign is around extreme heat. So I've been going up and down the state over the course of this year, learning from community, understanding their experiences. And as you can imagine, there are vast differences across our state. We're grateful to the legislature and to the governor for investing in this work to continue to bring to bear education and actionable information to save lives. As part of our state's comprehensive extreme heat action plan, we've been building our office to enhance collaboration, and coordination in state government during this important work, like the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, Department of Public Health, and the 99 Color campaign. And we're excited to be part of the large state effort to protect communities, both in the immediate term as our climate becomes hotter and drier, and in the long term with climate smart investments as outlined in the Extreme Heat Action Plan and the work of our colleagues in the Office of Planning and Research. So we look forward to collaborating with the Heat Relief for LA campaign and of course with Marta, and appreciate that both of our efforts are focused on improving the outcomes and making a real impact on communities that are so often left behind. Thank you for having me.
Well said, Executive Director Seda. Thank you so much for being with us today. Now I'd like to transition us quickly to the media Q&A. Do we have any live media questions, team? We actually have a couple of questions here. One is from Veronica Arcega, and she says she's from the Promotoras Network from Visión y Compromiso in LA County, and she'd like to bring this presentation to the Promotora Network in Spanish. And we'd love to make that available to you, Veronica, and so we'll definitely be reaching out to you. And thank you, David Keatsman, for the props on the Cool Spots LA app, and I want to make sure that everybody has access to that, so we will definitely be sharing that as part of our social media kit. And then we have a comment here from Suhagi Sandoval from Linwood. So we have people from outside of the city of LA also collaborating and participating, so that's really wonderful. I'm going to give my team another few seconds to let me know whether they have some media questions lined up, and if not, I'm going to transition over to our, thank all of our first panelists, our distinguished and amazing panelists who really make, this heat relief campaign work and bring together all of the public infrastructure for reshaping and redesigning our city. And I think as a city, we're going to set an example for others to ensure that we are not just preparing for extreme heat and climate change, but we are investing first and foremost in the areas that have been historically left behind, because we believe that that is what will bring us the greatest accelerated climate solutions for the entire region. So thank you all for our first panel. We really appreciate you being here, and it appears that we did not have any.
Marta,
yes.
Hi Marta, we have a couple of questions here.
We do.
So
Okay, thanks for stepping
first
in.
Up, first
Okay.
up from LAist.
Okay.
Hi, Marta, and I'm not sure if you're whoever's able to answer this. I
Sure.
believe Susana Reyes would be able to answer this, but I'm wondering if you can be a little more specific on where the cool pavement has been installed and what the year year to year kind of like how much more is this compared to the last few years?
Am I on, Marta?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, Commissioner Reyes, please go ahead.
Hi, we do have, monitor, and we have a database of that I will be able to share with you. The thing with our cool pavement is that we are intentionally targeting areas where they are needed. So there is such thing as a prioritization of our projects. We use the heat index, heat islands index as well, the Kalin virus screen index, and a canopy from the tree people to look at whether they're how they are distributed. And we're also looking at developing a tool that will help us really identify those neighborhoods visually with the highest priorities. As we finesse that little project of ours, we should be able to share it with the public because we are very methodical in how we approach it. Not just looking at those, using those indices, but we also focus on areas surrounding, for example, the businesses, the schools, the jobs, the transit hubs, to determine where people would be walking the most and also looking at the nature of the streets themselves. And with every execution, for example, when we have those projects, we call them cool neighborhoods now. We don't call them cool pavement, we call them cool neighborhoods because as we install the cool pavement, we also make sure that there are tree canopies along the way. So that enriches that approach and make sure that we do address the urban heat island impact in those neighborhoods. But I have your info. I will have somebody from our Streets LA give you the dashboard or the metrics that we use. There's a mapping tool that is available as well.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. All right, who do we have next?
There's La Opinion.
Okay, La Opinion, you have the floor.
Hello.
Yes, please
Can you-
continue.
Yes, I just trying to provide some recommendations to our readers so they can be safe, stay safe during this summer. What would be the main advice for them?
Yes, the main advice for your readers is, I guess I'll say it in English, but we need to prepare and plan ahead for our families and our neighborhoods because extreme heat, especially the first heat wave, is the hardest and it causes the greatest number of mortalities and hospitalizations. So we can't prepare for summers like in the past, and the best way to prepare is to ensure that we have access to cooling centers, to resilience centers, to places that are going to help us, our bodies recover if we don't have air conditioning at home. You want to wear light clothing. You want to drink a lot of water. You want to stay out of direct sunlight, but you also want to make sure that you are preparing those that have chronic illness or other vulnerabilities first and foremost. You want to know the symptoms of a heat stroke or heat exhaustion so that you can call for help if you need it. So we will, in our heat poster and our heat resources that we will share with everyone, you will have all of these steps that you should follow and how you can stay informed. We obviously rely on the media like La Opinión, Televisa, Univision, etc., and other ethnic media services to relay this information in different language. So I want to say thank you right now to all of the media that's here today that will help our residents prepare for the oncoming heat storms. And like I said earlier, the meteorologists are expecting some of the hottest heat storms this year and the following next 5 years. And we are going to exceed the 1.5 degrees Celsius that we had been hoping to avoid, at least for the next 5 years. So please stay in touch with us so that we can help you prepare. Join our social media campaign, and we will share this information with you. Thank you. Next question.
It's Haley Smith, LA Times.
Great. Go ahead, Haley.
Hi, thanks so much for doing this. So you mentioned transit, you mentioned bus stops, and I just wanted to see if you had any response to the criticism this week of those La Sombrita bus stop shades. I know they were a different department. I think it was transit, but it is a bus stop shade initiative. So
Right.
have you guys seen that criticism, and how can you assure people that our funds and resources are going to be used to the best effect when it comes to these extreme heat challenges?
I think what I'll say is this, that the Bureau of Street Services has a very extensive 10-year plan for well-designed and ground truth and researched bus shelters. And that's what Commissioner Reyes was referring to earlier. So that is not a pilot program. That has been a well-researched program that we hope will complement the key areas that are most transited, that are accessed by everyday people. So I think what you saw from DOT, and I can't comment on it, only to say that that was a pilot program. But what we have at the Board of Public Works through our Bureau of Street Services is something that I think you will find much more comprehensive and long-term, and we actually have funding for it. And we will be seeking more funding to accelerate the number of bus shelters that we have throughout the city. But we definitely want to make sure that you all know that within the Board of Public Works, we have a long-term plan for that. And I don't know if Commissioner Reyes would also like to make a comment.
Yes, the board recently approved a new contract for our bus shelters. We call it our street and transit amenities program, or STAP. There is a very methodical, intentional plan. They have really thought about where it will be and what improvements are needed from the previous program. So as I said earlier, we will increase those bus shelters to at least 3,000 and provide shelters for 75% of the transit boardings in each of the council district. We're also looking at where will they go? Where will these bus shelters be installed? We will look at areas that have high transit ridership, those areas that are exposed to heat, especially in the valley. We're working with LA Metro on Metro's equity-focused communities, for example, the minority populations, the low-income households, those with zero vehicles. They don't have any, they don't own vehicles. They take public transit as part of their livelihood when they go to work, take their children to school. The proximity to trip generators, for example, where those key destinations are, and how frequent the bus routes are, the frequency of those bus routes that indicate, long wait times. So we are going to map that and make sure that there are bus shelters there, so that as people wait for the bus, they are protected from the heat. And then if there are grant funds that are available, especially because we are looking into the Biden Infrastructure Act that also provides some funding for disadvantaged communities, we will tap into that type of a grant program so that can supplement the bus shelters program that we have for the city.
Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. I think that was the last question that we could take from the media. We have to move on to our second panel, but I want to thank the media. And again, I want to thank our first panel of speakers. You have added so much context and content and urgency to this issue. I really appreciate you. So now I'm very pleased to present to you our community panel. In our community panel, we have Agustin Cabrera from Scope LA. He is their policy director. We have Ana Karen Ramirez from Poema Beautiful, also their policy director. And we have Erin Coots from the LA Regional Climate Collaborative, and she is the executive director of the LA Regional Climate Collaborative. And I'll give the floor first to Agustin Cabrera from Scope LA. Agustin, the floor is yours. Is he still with us? Great. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, technical issues there, Agustin. My apologies.
It's okay. Thank you, Marta. And thank you for inviting me to the heat relief campaign launch. As Marta said, my name is Agustin Cabrera. I'm the policy director at Scope. We have been building community power and legacy for the last 30 years in South Central. We believe that sort of creating material changes for South LA residents comes with grassroots organizing, and policy should be developed by the community and for the community. And so that's at the heart of our theory of change. Our membership who lives and works in South Central are very concerned about heat impacts in their homes, and communities. And for years, they've been calling on the city to invest in more parks, green spaces, increasing the tree canopies, water resilient infrastructure, bus shelters, bike lanes, and also resilient centers, really to combat the growing climate crisis that has impacted their communities far more worse, first and worst than any other community. Right now, South Los Angeles is the second most polluted region in the country. And really that's by design. Really, we've seen decades of environmental racism caused by a lack of investment by city leaders, by redlining. And so scope leaders are really taking on the fight to create more resilient and thriving communities. And so that's sort of at the heart of our work. As it relates to heat impacts, we have been able to achieve some success with our TCC project, which were recently awarded through the South LA Eco Lab with our partners, including the City of LA, including Public Works, which was an incredible community-driven project. But our members really want to see these types of projects at scale. And as Commissioner Reyes mentioned, there's going to be a huge influx of federal money coming in to support infrastructure, particularly around climate resiliency. So investment in transportation, around clean energy and water resiliency. And scope members, along with our partner organizations, really want to see a targeted investment in those communities that have been historically disinvested in. And so we want to see a real coordinated approach between city departments, between the city council and the mayor's office to really bring in those much needed dollars into our communities. And so really want to make sure that we're uplifting, that this is sort of a once in a lifetime opportunity to bring in much needed investment and really start to heal from some of that historical disinvestment. Additionally, I did want to also share more about extreme weather thresholds as it relates to our utilities, particularly at DWP. So scope, along with our Repower LA partners and other grassroots leaders, won shutoff protections for LADWP customers last November. And we continue to advocate for equitable policy development and implementation. So really thank you to Board President Cynthia McCain-Hill, who really championed this, and to all of the grassroots leader who made this win possible. But this policy includes no shutoffs for all residential customers during extreme weather thresholds to be further defined. So we have yet to really define what the extreme weather thresholds are. And so in preparation for the extreme heat and wildfire season, we must establish strong thresholds for shutoff protections and heat relief. Studies have shown that health consequences related to heat start at temperatures above 85 degrees, and LA County Department of Public Health recently recommended safe indoor temperatures of 82 to 86 degrees. And so what we recommend starting extreme heat protection when the temperature or heat index will be 85 degrees at minimum based on a 72-hour look-ahead period. And while the National Weather Service heat alerts offer possible thresholds, they do not account for urban heat island impacts, which has been discussed in this launch. We also recommend extending protections when there are severe air quality events or days when air pollution is forecasted to exceed unhealthy levels. So that means 150 air quality index. Air quality has been and remains an issue for Los Angeles, in addition to increasingly common and intense wildfires and the compounding health impacts of health and wildfire smoke. Protections should be based on forecasts 72 hours in advance to give community members enough time to prepare and know that they will have access to life-saving energy and water. A stronger threshold makes sense for LA given significant temperature differentials that can exist within the city due to the urban heat island effect and other vulnerabilities that Angelenos face. Additionally, we want to make sure that as we are creating thresholds for heat impacts, that we're also focusing on affordability and debt relief, which is a huge concern for many Angelenos, those particularly living in EJ communities. And then lastly, I really want to encourage city leaders and state leaders to call on Governor Newsom and state lawmakers to restore the $1 billion in funding for equitable building decarbonization and community resilience centers. These programs will have a major impact on frontline communities who experience disproportionate energy burden. They don't have access to new technology and have very few access to resiliency centers. I think what you will hear from my colleagues from Pacoima Beautiful and from other city leaders is that resiliency really should be led by community that feel the impacts of the climate crisis first. And so we are incredibly excited to be partnering with the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office, with our partners in LEAP and Repower LA, and with City Council and Mayor Bass to make sure that all climate policies are intersectional and that they are community driven. And so thank you so much for giving me this time.
Great, thank you, Agustin. You know, we've almost come to the end of our time here, but I wanted to make sure that we get both Aaron Coots and Ana Karen Ramirez in here. So if you could each take about 2 minutes, that would be great. Thank you, Ana Karen Ramirez, Director of Policy at Pacoima Beautiful. You're next.
Thank you, Marta. Is everyone able to hear me okay? Great. And thank you so much for those remarks, Agustin. It echoes so much of what I already wanted to share today. And for those that may not be familiar with Pacoima, we're located in the Northeast San Fernando Valley, which is one of the hottest areas in LA, and has already mentioned, as has been mentioned before, it's really important to be looking at these multi-stakeholder solutions to the problems that have been coming from these compounding social and environmental factors. As urban heat impacts so many similar low-income neighborhoods and communities of color across LA, you know, many of us are left with the disparities in government resources, where in place of parks and trees, our community identity is often shaped by the polluting industries that are a part of this legacy. And as our mayor mentioned, there are pilot projects that are being brought forward through these diverse networks of stakeholders to tackle the symptoms of these issues. In the past year, Pacoima Beautiful has piloted also a Cool Streets initiative, you know, coding 10 square blocks, a school playground and a rec center. With Cool Pavement, we are also recipients of the TCC funding and working to increase our urban tree canopy and expanding local solar installations. But what's more important is to not look at these individual projects as the end all be all to heat relief in our communities. We need to also be working to address the root causes of extreme heat and climate change. And that means really ensuring that LA is leading the transition away from fossil fuels and those sources of greenhouse gases, ensuring that, you know, Angelenos are getting on public transit, that our infrastructure is equipped for that, you know, as we're decarbonizing our building stock, we're protecting tenants and keeping utility rates affordable and making those bold strides towards electrification and distributed renewable energy resources. I'll leave it at that, but thank you so much for giving me the space to speak today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Ana Karen. And without further delay, Aaron Coots from the LA Regional Climate Collaborative.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you so much for having me. I am the director of LARC, a network of climate leaders from city government, county government, regional agencies, nonprofits, businesses, and academia. Here to talk about a project that's an example of how LARC operates to foster community, a community of partners. Working collectively, we can accelerate our reach and our impact. Last summer, LARC partnered with the LA County Department of Public Health to create a social media campaign to help those most at risk of heat-related illness, to protect themselves, their families, and their communities. We created 16 weeks of content for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Those topics that we covered were pretty broad, included everything from physical and mental health impacts of extreme heat to staying cool on your commute or at home without air conditioning. There is a lot of work there. Hopefully we can share that with you all. Last summer, we shared that content on LARC's channels and on DPH's channels and a coordinated network of distribution partners. We successfully recruited 50 distribution partners, including CMO here and a number of others I see on this call. Thank you so much for sharing our content. Together, we reached more than 6 million people during the Heat Safe LA campaign. We are relaunching that social campaign again. We would love to have you share it on your channels. We'll be coordinating with CMO to do that. The website that you can go to see all of our existing content is the laregionalcollaborative.com/heat. Additionally, we are working this summer with LA Metro to do a bus advertisement campaign across all of their buses, putting a bus card on all of those buses. If you are doing in-person events, I am interested in connecting with you all. We've been working with a group of community-based organizations, both partners and hospitals, to design flyers that can be adapted for your individual organization's needs. If you have a place to share those, please reach out to me. My email is ecoutts@ucla.edu. I'm glad to hear from you all.
Thank you,
we look
Erin.
forward to collaborating with you.
Thank you. We do too. So definitely collaboration was the common theme here. Again, I thank all of the agencies that were here today, all of the departments, all of our city partners, the community, the media. We plan to expand our Heat Relief for LA network beyond the 70 organizations that are already there. And please go to climateforla.org/heat under Heat Safety Communications to join that network and learn more about all of the other things the city of LA is doing to create a more heat resilient and equitable city for us all. Thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for preparing with us for this heat season. And remember, National Heat Awareness Day is on Friday. So have a good one. Thank you.